If you ask us to describe our ideal Sundays, all that we will want is a never ending supply of hot cuppa and laid back conversations. So, that is what we are bringing to you through Cuppa Press, a marketing and sales talk show series by Paperflight. If you're all set, let's dive right into today's conversation. On today's episode, we have with us Peep Laja, the CEO of Wynter, and he's going to be sharing his hot takes on differentiation. Today, we're going to be talking about differentiation and messaging, so I'm going to get right to it, right? What is one commonly floated advice about differentiation that you think is complete trash?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of those. I think the number one problem that I see with the differentiation advice is that it's somehow something that you can sprinkle on top. So your company is what it is. It's an agency, it's a SaaS company, and then you turn to your marketer or your copywriter and say, "Hey, okay, now can you add some differentiation on top?" That doesn't work. Differentiation is not a line of copyright. It starts with your actual DNA of what is your company about and how it behaves, how it works. So yeah.
Love that, right? Because it is not very uncommon to see that happening. So fantastic. And with that, we've kickstarted today's episode on Cuppa Press. Pep, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very glad to have you with me on the show today. And I think we'll move on to the next question right away, Pep. So I don't know if you're familiar with Andy Cunningham. She was part of the Apple's Macintosh launch way back in 1984. So she says
Okay.
that companies and brands should be talking about affiliation first and then talk about differentiation, right? Tell what you do and then tell how differently you do it, right? So you've spearheaded two brands yourself, starting with CXL and now Wynter. So can you walk us through the positioning of these two brands, right? How did you tell people what it is that you do and how different you are from the other people?
hmm So 1984, the world was very different compared to 2021. So I think that advice is somewhat outdated. If
Mm-hmm.
you lead with what you do, you're positioning yourself as a commodity. If you're an SEO agency and you say, "We're an SEO agency," you're a commodity. If you're an email marketing tool and you start with, "We do email marketing," you're a commodity. There have never been as many brands as there are today. Compared to 1984, probably 1,000 times more. Every category is super saturated, and the more mature a category, the more commoditized it is. They're the category leaders, number one and two in any particular category. And then a lot of these challenger brands, companies, smaller companies trying to grab their market share. So if they, it's not possible to compete on what you do
Mm-hmm.
or features. Like SaaS companies cannot compete on features because everybody will copy you. Whatever is working, they will have it. Snapchat had stories. Oh, great. But now we're fleeting on Twitter. It's the same stuff. Everybody has the same features. The same way that, like, if a services company, whatever service you offer, other companies can do that too. So you need to immediately position yourself through better messaging, better story. Yes, you still need features and all that stuff. Like, you need feature parity. You cannot be worse. You need to be at least as good, to compare. But it's hard to be objectively better. I mean, some companies maybe are objectively better, but it's super rare. It's super rare.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's when you compete on innovation, like you have just a more innovative product, and sometimes that's a transient advantage that you have over a short period of time. Most companies, though, can only compete on brand and your brand messaging and what are you about. So when it comes to CXL, Spiro, my agency, and Wynter, so each one has a different positioning. So at CXL, which is an e-learning company, we don't say we do digital online marketing courses in digital marketing. Because if we would say that, we would be fungible, easily replaceable with another Because Udemy, that sells every course, is like what, $11. Low quality
Mm-hmm.
crap for the most part. I mean, why choose us? Like if we're an online, if we do online courses, might as well go to Udemy and buy the $11 thing, because they also do courses. So we position ourselves through the top 1% factor. We are leading with our courses. Our instructors are the top 1% practitioners in the world. And so if you want to become the best, you should learn from the best. That is how we position ourselves. So we are the platform where the best practitioners are teaching people that want to be the best. So the association, the tribe, is like there's an aspiration. I wanna get somewhere with my career. So and we also say it's gonna be hard work. It's gonna take a long time, and you're probably actually not gonna be capable of doing it. Like you're gonna give up, which is why you should probably go to Udemy, because like
Mm-hmm.
you don't have it in you, or do you? So there's a certain degree of this. This is called the hostile brand. You put up a velvet rope, you repel a certain group of audience, and in turn, another group of the people are more attracted to this. So yeah, at CXL, it's the cornered reason. Yeah, at Spiro, which is an agency, a consulting company, we do customer experience and experimentation consulting, managed experimentation programs. If you would again say just that, hey, we do CX optimization or we do CRO, we would be a commodity agency. But in fact, we're one of the most expensive agencies in the space. We compete actually on narrative. So the narrative that we have hooked ourselves on is what is going on in the world. And we call it, right now, we live in the retention economy. So companies that are focused on short term metrics of just getting people in the door, like more signups right now, that just like, let's do whatever it takes to increase our conversion rate. You're likely shooting yourself in the foot, because you're not taking long term view. You're spending resources signing up customers who will churn or who might not be best fit customers over the long run. So instead, what is happening is like the companies that are winning are focused on metrics like customer lifetime value, retention rate. Companies that have excellent retention rates get far higher valuations from like venture capital companies. So it's all about retention and optimizing your website, your funnels, your everything should be through that lens. Are we driving long term growth? Are we moving metrics like pipeline and LTV and retention rate? And so we basically make a case where the old strategy is not working anymore. The old strategy of we're all optimizing for conversion rates, that's short-sighted, and it's basically doesn't work anymore. In order to be competitive in this new world, you need to hop onto this new train, this new vehicle that will drive you there where you want to go. And by telling the story, we are positioning our capabilities as, if you want to be competitive in this new environment we're in this new world, that's you need these and these capabilities, and we as Spiro, we can help you get there. And so by telling that story, we position ourselves as the best option for you to adapt to this new world. And when it comes to Wynter is in an interesting position where Wynter is an innovative product. It's the only one in the world doing what we do for now. The competition is coming for sure. So that just gives us some time to build up our moats, for when the competition is entering entering the space. So with Wynter also, we do quite a bit of storytelling around the importance of messaging. Things that I already mentioned, like there have never been as many brands as before, and you probably cannot compete on innovation, so you compete on messaging. However, imagine, a sales. We're on a sales call. I'm pitching you my product, and imagine that I can only see if you sign the contract or not. Like normally, a normal sales conversation, I see things that you like. I ask you questions, and then I talk more about the things that are important to you and less about other things. Um, in such a situation, if I was not able to see your reactions and only if you sign or not, that would be ridiculous. It's an unthinkable situation. Whereas on the internet, on your website, that's exactly what is happening. Companies have their copy on their website and they're pitching you, but they don't know how their pitch is landing, you know? And so we as Wynter, we give you the data how this pitch is landing. So we're completely changing the game. So in this new environment, the world that we are in, that is noisier than ever before, you need to compete on messaging. And so the capabilities for winning is you need to know what your target customer wants, what are the desired gains and the pains they want to avoid. And then if you know that, you can craft your pitch and how that messaging is landing. So our capabilities are what helps you win in this current world that we are in.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. I mean, I love the incredible breakdown, right? That's beautiful. And you also mentioned a couple of factors here, Pep, when it comes to differentiation. So what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be listing out a couple of factors. And if you can give me the upside and downside of differentiating based on that factor, I think that would be incredible.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is a no-brainer. It is features that you've mentioned already. So if you can give
Hmm.
me the upside and downside to that.
Yeah. Well, if you can have more and better features, sure, but the fact is that you probably cannot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what you must have some sort of a crazy advantage to be able to do something that others cannot replicate. Yeah. So it's not.
Right.
I don't think you're able to pull it off. Like you have to be really honest with yourself. Like, do you have more money, more talent, more PhD scientists have access to some technologies that others do not? If you can, yes, but I think less than 1% of companies are able to pull it off. So if you just compete on features, others will copy you, and then you have no advantage anymore. And over time, all features that once used to be novel become table stakes. They become
Mm-hmm.
commodities. So if I was pitching you my email marketing software today, it's like, hey, you can track open rates and click-through rates, split test subject lines. You'd be rolling your eyes like, yeah, duh, but like every tool does that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. The next factor is customer experience, right? What is the upside and downside of differentiating on customer
Hmm.
experience?
I think customer experience is massively has massive opportunity for most. Like anybody can compete on experience, which is great. Obviously, it will take creativity and money and effort to compete on it, but anybody can. So you can say that, okay, let's say you're a local bookstore
Mm-hmm.
and you compete with Amazon. I can just buy any book from Amazon. Like, why go to my bookstore? Well, the bookstore has infinitely less resources than Amazon, but it can absolutely provide a better experience than Amazon, right? They can know me and who I am and what I like. They can offer me coffee and cake, and they can massage my back while I check out the books. They can
Mm-hmm.
watch my kid. They can play with my dog. I don't know, like all these things that they can do that Amazon cannot replicate. So I think investing in customer experience is a massive opportunity, especially for smaller business. I mean, for anybody really, um, especially because the default experience is minimal. And I'm not just talking about product experience. Your product usability and the onboarding experience. Of course, all those things need to be good as well. But
Mm-hmm.
like way beyond that, the support experience, the sales experience, like so I think competing on customer experience is has a lot of opportunity.
And if
No
you had
real
to say,
downside.
mm, okay, you'd say there are no downsides. Is that right?
No downside. I can't see any downside. Like, I mean, obviously, if you do the bare minimum, anybody can do that. Like, but like most companies are doing the bare minimum. So that's if you're gonna compete and differentiate in customer experience, you need to go all in. Like 10 times better than your competitors.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So the next factor is price. Right.
Hmm. Well, pricing can be a reason to choose you because differentiation really is about why choose you over others. However, in order to do this sustainably without shooting yourself in the foot, you need to have some sort of a structural advantage. You need to really have some sort of an innovation that helps you sell your product cheaper. Because if other companies are able to offer whatever you're offering at the same price or at a lower price, what you're doing is insane. So you really need to ask yourself, like, do I have something going on that gives me a massive advantage? Maybe all your people, all your employees are based out of Bolivia, and so like
Mm-hmm.
it's cheaper, right? Because the cost of living in
Right.
Bolivia is cheaper compared to Silicon Valley, maybe. But I mean, what if a Bangladeshi company comes that is even cheaper than one, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, or you can have an innovation in your manufacturing process. And my favorite example here is Barefoot Wines. It's an Australian wine manufacturer. You see it in basically every supermarket, and their wines are comfortable, comparable to like $15 wines in terms of quality, but the bottle costs like $6. And how is it so
Mm-hmm.
much cheaper? Is that they took out a critical process in the winemaking, which is aging. They don't age their wines. And so by not aging their wines, they were able to cut their cost, structural advantage, and now they're able to offer it cheaper. So if you can do that, sure, but like you need to have that structural advantage in place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got that. So the next factor would be the brand itself, right? You.
Brand, yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I think that in the modern world where we have infinite competition, brand is ultimately one of the strongest moats you can have. And again, anybody can have a brand. I mean, brand that people know and like, it takes years to build. Like if we talk about
Mm-hmm.
like Nike level brand here or Apple, most will never get there. But anybody can build their tribe and be compete on values, on point of view, things like that. So the way I see brand, how we define brand. Brand is what they say about you. It's not what you say; it's what they say. And ultimately, it's like, what does it say about me if I buy you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if I wear Patagonia, outdoor jackets, it just tells the world about me that I care about sustainability and I care about the nature and things like that. If I wear a Gucci handbag, I'm signaling to the world that I'm rich. Like, so that's the
Mm-hmm.
brand. And so you need to figure out like what is it that which idea you are owning in the mind of the customer, and if the customer is buying you, what are they signaling, consciously or unconsciously? And you cannot compete on the same idea that as the market leader. So you need to go against the market leader. So a brand is an idea, right? So you need to stand for basically a singular idea.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, I mean, if you get bigger and richer, you could stand for more ideas. But ideally, it's like there's an essence of your brand that is a singular idea. And let's say you also made jackets and gloves and hats, and you're competing with Patagonia, you're gonna lose because Patagonia can out sustainability you. Like they already own that brand and they have much more resources and they can be more sustainable than you probably. So don't. That's not to say that you can't be green. You can be green too, right? But the central idea is something else. Yes, I mean Patagonia needs jackets that are as windproof as anybody else's. Like your product still needs to be good. You need the feature parity,
Mm-hmm.
but the central idea, it needs to be something else. So, but absolutely, be really clear about your brand and consider that as your strongest moat, especially as a small business.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So this is the last but one factor of Pep, which is the personal brand of founders or key team members.
Hmm. It can be huge. I mean, obviously, your business brand cannot be the same as the founder brand, but a founder can be a reason to choose you. It is for smaller businesses, especially. It is easier to build a personal brand than a company brand because it's easier for humans to relate to another human being than a company. So it's a faster path to success. And so if we look at especially, well, let's look at bigger businesses like, Elon Musk and Tesla, and then there's Zuckerberg, and there's like Bill Gates and Microsoft, and so on and so forth. Even big corporations are attaching a personal brand to a company brand. So Elon Musk fans buy Teslas if they can afford it, and so on. And so, or Basecamp founders, like really outspoken, like clear conviction, the ideas that they stand for like privacy and like no, they say no to overworking and all this stuff, like prolific writers, very eloquent. So I use, I don't personally use, but people use Basecamp because they love the founders. They use Hey, the email service, because they like the founders. It's a reason to pick the company. Absolutely.
And do you think there's any downside to it?
I think the downside is like, what if the founder leaves? Like what if you sell the company? So as a buyer, if I was gonna buy Basecamp, I'd be thinking twice, like what do I have left if the founders are gone? So that is a liability. I think there are ways around that. It's a I think the pros outweigh the cons. And so you don't want to attach the company. Company by itself also needs to stand for a set of values. So that the personal brand is just lubrication, helps to accelerate the brand recognition and the brand development of the company brand. But you don't want to have it like that it's directly overlapping. Yeah. So like don't name your company after yourself, which is like if Kendra Scott sells her jewelry company and she goes on to do something else, and she's not affiliated with the brand, but it's her name, it would be weird, extremely challenging. Yeah, probably that's the end of it. Yeah.
Love that. And this brings me to the very last factor, Pep, which is messaging, right? So what would you say is the upside and downside to it?
So messaging, the way I see it, is directly related to your brand and positioning. And you absolutely need to compete on messaging, because it's for the same reasons that you very few can compete on innovation. So what's left is competing on messaging. Obviously, I'm not just talking about the line of copy, because it's copy is easier to copy than features, right? Anybody can write the same words on your website. So it still starts from being something, standing for something, your DNA, what is your company about, your values, your point of view, things you do or not do. Your also your point of view in terms of how you build your features and so on. But then once you're clear on what you're about, you're clear on your identity, you communicate through words. Before product market fit, before people's use your product, love it, tell others about it, and are ready to pay for it. Before that comes message market fit. Like, is what you're saying, does it resonate with people or does it turn them off? So competing on messaging is absolutely a must, because if you're messaging, the opposite is like you go all in on features and you ignore messaging and you just say generic things, or you become a commodity. Like you say, we do SEO, we're a marketing automation company, which is not, you're not creating any story there, right? So story and messaging, which is like just a longer way to talk about your DNA and what you stand for, it's an absolute must. So yeah, I mean, I think for the next 5 to 10 years, right now, with the market being so competitive and noisy as it is, I think ignoring messaging and not competing on messaging is suicide.
Got that. And you also mentioned storytelling here, Pep. I noticed a recent tweet of yours where you mentioned that a lot of storytelling books, right, keep repeating the same thing over and over again. Like they talk about the story arc, they talk about the hero's journey, and all of it is
Yes.
almost the same, right? So how do you stand out when it comes to delivering your strategic narrative and telling your story?
My problem with the storytelling books is not the story arc or Joseph Campbell and all that stuff. Is that those books are extremely vague about how to implement or how to incorporate storytelling now into my marketing. How do I incorporate it in on my website? Like then, do I do a video or do I phrase the copy? How do I incorporate it in my ads? It's an unanswered question. So that is my gripe with it.
Mm-hmm.
The lack of specificity. All these books are all about the why. Oh, people, sat around campfires 10,000 years ago, and then we resonate with stories. Okay, get great. Yes. Okay, fine. I believe you. Okay, now how do I do it for my business? And that's where the advice ends. Like it's so vague, it's so generic. So that's my problem. And hence storytelling has become such a like a eye roll. Anybody somebody says, "Oh, just tell better stories," So, and I'm gonna take it on as one of my things to make it more specific, to give
Mm-hmm.
companies an actionable framework for how you can actually incorporate it. So yeah, watch this space.
Mm-hmm. Sure thing. I will. And you also mentioned message market fit, Pep. So how do
Yeah.
you test for it, right? Is there a specific set of data that you look at? What is the process
Mhm.
to test?
Yeah, so essentially you validate it. There's a two-step validation. You
Mm-hmm.
first validate qualitatively. So to start, you craft your messaging based on your insight to the market, insight to the customer. So you need some sort of insight to base your first hypothesis on when you do your first draft of messaging. Let's say you craft your messaging, you put it on your website, and now, does it resonate? Is the question. What about your messaging people, first of all, understand and like? What's like, oh, yes, tell me more about that. What's something that as they're reading or listening to your story, that they're like nodding heads, like, yeah, yeah, exactly. I want that. Yes, yes, yes. Versus them like, don't care, don't want, whatever, same old. So you find this out through qualitative research. And so essentially, you want to take a story and take it to the people that you're trying to influence. So if you're selling to SaaS companies, that get SaaS company decision makers. If you're selling to e-commerce, or if you're selling to B2C, it's the same way. Just recruit people that are representing your target audience, people you're actually trying to market to, and then ask them line by line, paragraph by paragraph, how do they feel about it, what resonates, what does not resonate, things like that. Obviously, this is it can be quite time consuming. It's a pretty involved process, which is of course why I went and built Wynter, which solves this exact problem with a click. So you wouldn't need to do the heavy lifting. We do it all for the client, but like you can do it also without Wynter. Like it's just qualitative research, just very time consuming.
Mm-hmm. Right. All this talk about messaging, people, it makes me wonder, was there ever a time when a certain messaging did not work out well for you?
For me.
Yes.
Hmm.
Over the years, anything that kind of, backfired.
So when I started my conversion optimization agency, we were one of the few agencies around, so the market was not saturated, you know. So messaging was less important back then, and we played a big role in creating the category for conversion optimization. I do have a failed company in my history, but I think messaging was only like just played one little part in the failure there. There's like a multitude of factors. So I have to admit that I don't have a personal messaging failure in my book. At least not a significant one. Smaller ones, sure. Um, but I see it all the time, on the market.
Mm-hmm. And do you think there are certain factors that, make a recipe for a short failure when it comes to messaging? Like what shouldn't be when, in a
Yeah, I
messaging
mean
recipe?
the key problem is sameness. And sameness is the default. It's like most companies, they have two classic or if I could say three classic mistakes. One, they talk about themselves as if they're the only one doing what they're doing. We do email marketing. Okay, so does everybody else. Instant failure. Or they just say the same things. Like if it's a survey company, you say, oh, build really flexible, customizable surveys fast. Da, da, da. And again, it's like there's this like everybody else is like saying the same things. Or if it's luxury hotels, you say luxury and you show pictures of pools and and now you have like there's no differentiation between Hyatt, Hilton, or Marriott. It's the same. Sameness is the default. So if you can avoid communicating as if you're the only one doing what you're doing, like you're not, so stop communicating like that, and then don't say the exact same things that people expect. If you're the category leader, if you're like Hilton and Marriott, you can get away with it because market awareness, market penetration, awareness that you exist is far more important than differentiation. But if you're not a category leader, then it becomes very important.
Fantastic. I think we're moving towards the close of this episode, Pep. So I think I'll leave you with a couple final questions before we wrap up. Right.
Okay.
So what brands do you think are radically standing out with messaging?
I think the classic examples are Drift, with their conversational marketing. They changed the way people talked about it. So really really good job over there. Like live chat and conversations instead of forms and like static. That's been a job well done. And then Gong being really also executing really well, but also like what Gong is doing with their messaging work, like in terms of like stopping the guesswork, really nicely done. Yeah.
Fantastic. Those are brilliant picks, Pep. So all of this talk about differentiation, right? And we also spoke about category creation. So do you think category creation is something that is like a shiny new object that the B2B world is chasing right now?
If you can pull it off, the rewards are great, obviously. However, only very big companies can pull it off because it will cost you millions of dollars. Millions. So if you don't have that kind of money at hand and you can't wait for years, then you're better off at doubling down on a niche or going for a subcategory instead of category creation.
Fantastic. So talk to us more about Wynter, Pep.
So Wynter is a B2B panel company essentially. So we have the world's best B2B panel, people that you can target by job title, industry, company headcount, things like that. And so you can recruit people that represent your customers, and then you can do message testing. You can put your marketing messaging in front of those people and they'll tell you what resonates or doesn't, so you can optimize your messaging. You can do customer research, like learn what are the top pains your target customer has, what are their gains, how are they thinking about that space that you're in, like what is a perceived issue and what is not an issue, how do they want to buy, all that stuff. If you know this, you can do better messaging and better marketing. So that is what Wynter is enabling. It's a completely unsolved problem right now. B2B panels is an unsolved problem. Getting data on your messaging is an unsolved problem, and low hassle customer research is a problem. Something that you would hire a market research firm for. Market research firm for what you can get from Wynter in like 1-2 days or $500. A market research firm, traditional firm, would charge you like $15,000 to $25,000 and take a month. Like we're really disrupting that space. So if you're a B2B company and you want to compete on messaging, Wynter.
Mm-hmm. Love that, Pep. And with that, we've kind of wrapped up today's episode. Pep, thank you so much once again for your time. Really appreciate it. And I hope you had a good time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much.